Greek, how are you, my friend?
What is happening?
We're doing great. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit. I don't know how we got on spring break stories. Because I guess because of the chaos there on South Beach. You're not much that, takes a look at the price point before you get involved in something. But would you pay 4 sticks for like a spaghetti dinner on South Beach? $400 for 2 people? No drinks.
No way. Maybe a hot bait, but not a pasta. I could get it for $6. I can make it for $3. Get a Joseph.
Yeah. You could have gone to Flanagan's. I had the lunch special, and had the hottest hooker on South Beach.
Yeah, I mean, for $400, they better throw in 2 brunettes and wash my car and fill it up. Are you kidding me?
Remind me to bring that up at Mayo later.
The other night I was at a place and the price came out, and I was like to the girl, I said, "COVID's over." She goes, "What the hell does that mean?" I go, "Well, take off your mask. You're robbing me."
Hey, fucking Zorro, why don't you get up and, I'll pay for the drinks.
I'm like, oh my God, you guys looking for partners? Oh, God.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very special good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie Lubitz on this fine Tuesday as the countdown is on to 2 South Florida teams, not 1, but 2 South Florida teams being in the NCAA tournament's Final Four. Quite a distinction. Something that you would have to say, if you would bet against this in your lifetime ever happening, you probably would have felt pretty safe that you were going to be cashing. And you get that horrifying feeling that happens when like a phantom plunger is out at the track. Phantom plunger being a term for a guy that bets like a substantial, talking about $50,000, $100,000 on some horse like Secretariat to show, and somehow the jockey falls off at the gate. And the guy has to sit there in horror for like 2 minutes and change, watching him go 1.25 miles and saying, "Oh my fucking God, what did I do?" Like that guy that had the 33,000 on the parlay there, where he had Alabama to win. This was in an earlier round when Alabama did win. And, of course, he thought that Missouri would blow out Princeton and was willing to lay the 6.5, made a parlay for 33 grand, trying to win 50. This is very much shades of our good friend Sheldon G, but he's more of a straight-up guy, and he bets even more substantial amounts of cash. And I believe he had UConn for about 50,000 in their last game against Gonzaga, which was a pretty good score. I mean, that's one of those games that you definitely enjoy watching, right? At what time do you start making mimosas if you're watching out on the West Coast? And you're thinking, wow, this one's in the bag. I don't know. Is any lead safe in these NCAA tournament games after watching the Canes come back from 13 down in a game where it looked like they were getting drubbed? That was not trending well. I don't care what kind of analytics or sabermetrics you look at. It seemed to me that Texas was grabbing an inordinate number of offensive boards in that game. I didn't see the final stats. Probably comes out in favor of the University of Miami. But O'Meara was on the bench. He got in foul trouble. Should they extend the number of fouls at a college player? Now, I understand that the game's only 40 minutes, theoretically, barring overtime. Yeah, what about overtime, Deef? You don't have to throw that in to be such a wise guy, huh, Lubie? Right? Where, it's a 40-minute game versus 48 in the pros where you get 6 fouls. Do you think it's time they extended the number of fouls a kid can accumulate in a college basketball game to 6? Should we administrate a rule change or start a revolt trying to get a rule change there? Because O'Meara fouled a guy in the first minute of the game. He's guarding the opposing team's big man, and the guy drives it to the basket, and he's kind of just body riding him. They call the foul, so now he's already got 1. And you're in trouble if that's going to be the main fulcrum behind any possibilities you have of winning the battle on the boards, which obviously is a very important, critical element of any kind of success the Hurricanes might have. But they managed to hang in there nonetheless, even with O'Meara partially on a bench, or part of the game on the bench. And yet it didn't seem like, as that lead was being extended to 13, Lubie, that you were watching Texas miss their first opportunity, but somehow tap the ball out to somebody on the outside, get another shot at it. And then they started canning those second chance opportunities, even though they weren't getting layups or tip-ins on the second chance. But the fact that they were able to reset and get another play, they had good enough shooters to make that work. And it looked like that was going to be the way the rest of the game went. So, you thought, wow, impossible for Miami to duplicate what FAU had done. And yet here we have it. And we're less than a week away from tipping off two South Florida schools in the Final Four. Coach Larranaga is going to join us. We weren't able to secure an interview with Dusty May yet, although we will have Brian White. And I think you're right about that, Lubie. That was the accommodation that we got from the people at Florida Atlantic University, which is fine. Because you would have to think there's an overwhelming number of requests. I mean, what's the best storyline if you were looking from a national perspective in this Final Four? Is it Jim Larranaga taking another team 17 years later after taking George Mason to the Final Four and overcoming the number 4, the number 1, and the number 2 seed in the Midwest region in succession in 3 straight games that they mowed down the competition as underdogs? Is it San Diego State that in a million years, if you said, hey, who do you think is going to make the Final Four this year? Would San Diego State be in your top 50 or 100 choices
Oh, no.
if you were given a chance to go ahead and make that prediction?
I know they're actually pretty good every year, but I wouldn't have thought to put them in the Final Four. Are you kidding me? I know they were top seed in their conference tournament, but I wouldn't.
What's the guy's name? Dan Butcher? Is that the coach there? Dan Butcher?
Oh.
He really looks the part, doesn't he? The guy that's coaching San Diego State. One of those old school. I mean, if you think Jim Larranaga would be an old school coach, which he may be old like I am, but he's certainly not old school when it comes to his approach. I mean, this is a guy that's got a modern, up-tempo approach to the game, and it's paying big dividends. And they're looking to run at every opportunity as opposed to all right, well, let's work the offense. Remember when a coach used to scream that from the silence? Come on, guys, work it. Work the ball. Now, there was no shot clock back then. In fact, I don't even know that we had clocks when I was playing basketball as a kid. But that was always the cry from the coaching position. Work it, let's work it. In fact, every now and then the point guy would just pull it out. I don't mean he pulled it out like that, but he would just pull the ball back out. I guess I should have specified an object, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should we speak in actual sentences here, or just
that would
go ahead?
That'd be great. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean to say that the guy pulled it out, right away everybody starts thinking, "No, Jesus, Defo, you don't have to be that gross." You talked about wiping your ass on the show for like an hour the other day. Incredible, but and wouldn't that happen, right? Where your point guard was supposed to be your heady player, and he was usually a guy that couldn't shoot the ball real well. Occasionally, he would pop a jumper, from 15 feet, and you go, "Wow, you made a shot! Holy shit! Holy Casey Jones!" But and the guy would pull it out and go, "Okay, let's work the ball." Meanwhile, you're in the corner screaming for your usual jumper, and the guy just is standing there dribbling, and they want to kind of reset and run the offense. Jim Larranaga does none of that. If you've noticed, 0.0. He's looking to push the ball and push the rocket every time. Dusty May, I would have to think, is the best story. Danny Hurley, I guess, comes from a basketball family and background. His father was a fabled high school coach, and we all know it's been documented about Bobby Hurley and what went on when he was at Duke. And Bobby Hurley now coaching Arizona State. Danny Hurley was a high school coach that got a shot in a Division I situation at Wagner. Right out of a high school. But, I mean, this was no high school. This was like Jerry Faust. Except I think it's a more difficult transition to take a high school football coach and put him on a major platform like Notre Dame than it would be to take a high school basketball coach that had built a dynasty, St. Benedict's or something like that, one of those schools. And I think his record was like 232-35 or something as a high school coach. And he had a bunch of monsters that he recruited to the high school. Not to imply for a second that anything illegal or illicit was going on, but the fact that they were driving new Rolls Royces while they were in high school, it was maybe a bit of an inclination that something was happening there. But not to cast any aspersions towards Danny Hurley, who seems like a stand-up guy. But you would have to say Dusty May is probably the best story in the Final Four and maybe the most sought after. Would you agree, Lubie, that if you were a national writer and you're thinking, which one of these coaches do I want to talk about? It would have to be the remarkable achievement of taking FAU, a school that nobody would have given consideration to make it into the Final Four or even into the tournament in most years. Only their second tournament appearance, and to take them to this position certainly is an incredible accomplishment. And I would think one that will make Dusty May feel very secure about his future, don't you?
I mean, he's safe there. He's safe there.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, what are they? They should give him a 100-year extension right now
It's
if
what
they were
he
smart.
wants to do. I'm curious if he just runs at the first job offered, which right now there's not any really big offers, or if he's smart enough to me to stay for now and see what happens. Because again, we've talked about this. FAU's moving into the AAC, which is a legit conference. Like Houston, who was a number 1 seed, is in the AAC.
Can
So
he do any better there, though? That's the question. I mean, do you see them going back, being repeaters?
I don't know.
That's hard to envision.
I don't know if FAU can become a program. I just know the stuff you're going to get out of a program, you may be able to get to some extent at FAU. Like now that you've been to the Final Four, you should be getting some money put in there. FAU is all you said it. They're a stepping stone, whether it's football or basketball. It seems to be a stepping stone place. At some point, you would think they'd want to not be assumed as that. Yeah, they may never be Alabama in football or frickin' UCLA in basketball, but you could become something. And Texas A&M has become a stable college basketball program when I'm sure they weren't always that. Like VCU has become a pretty solid college basketball program, even though they weren't always that. Like you can be a smaller college basketball program and solidify yourself. And to me, if you're FAU, this is your moment to do that. You have a young guy who didn't want to be here, but then came, turn them around. You're moving into a bigger conference. Like this would be the move to me if you're FAU to say, look, we don't want to be this commuter school anymore. We want to be something. I'm curious how FAU handles this whole thing. If Dusty May just runs, or if they find a way to, or if they try to do everything they can to keep it.
Well, like you said, I mean, a lot of the jobs that would have been open have been filled, including Texas hiring their interim coach as their full-time coach. I don't know what's open. There was talk about Texas Tech was seeking the services of Rick Pitino. Of course, he ended up signing with St. John's. What's really out there for Dusty May this year? I don't know that you're going to get a situation where after the tournament is over, somebody's going to fire their head coach and say, hey, we got Dusty May coming in. But you would think off this magic carpet ride of FAU that he could write his own ticket either now or maybe a year or so down the road. Would be I can't imagine that anybody that had an opening wouldn't consider this guy at any time after this season, even when they crank it up again next year. And if he spent another year at FAU, unless they went into such a complete decline, even if they went like 3-30 next year, you would think he had done enough this year to establish that he's very capable of doing a remarkable job. That's a great thing too about college basketball, and I don't know that you see it so much in college football. You're getting to the point now where it sounds like a Crosby, Stills and Nash song, right? Getting to the point where I'm no fun anymore, because it's the same teams all the time. College football. And maybe the name, image, and likeness has only solidified that position. While Nick is crying about it, he's benefiting from it completely, more so than virtually anybody else, because he continues to knock down number 1 recruiting classes and getting 10 guys that are going to be drafted in the first round on every roster, even if he is losing to Georgia every year at this stage. Is Nick losing it, man? I mean, they got Coach K in the Aflac commercials now. I suppose it's seasonal, but
Yeah,
you would think that Nick's credibility would stand up, his Q rating would stand up during any season, right?
No, they seem to go back and forth between Coach K and Nick Saban. The curiosity would be when Kirby starts to get those commercials, because you have, as much as he should be considered the best coach right now, they won back-to-back titles. Saban still has that moniker. We'll see. We'll see how long he shines over his.
You think that eats at Kirby, that he calls his agent every night and says, well, what is Nick doing in another commercial, man?
100%.
This guy don't fucking drink Dr. Pepper. I know that. I drink Dr. Pepper. Right? And meanwhile, he's trouncing this guy on the football field and has made them a secondary factor behind Georgia's back-to-back national championships. Anyway, the coach is often the story in college sports, and I would think Dusty May would be the top story coming into the Final Four, unless I don't know much about this guy. In fact, I'm not even sure his name is Danny Butcher. Is it? Is that the coach of San Diego State?
My phone.
Check that out for me, Lubie, just in case I'm dead wrong about that. I seem to recall seeing a picture of him in the post yesterday, and I keep asking myself as the memory is starting to fade, what the hell is the name of that San Diego State coach? Does anybody talk about him?
Brian Dutcher.
Dutcher, okay.
Brian Dutcher.
What did I have him as? Danny Butcher?
Yes, you said Danny Butcher.
Yeah, that's close, man.
Brian Dutcher, and yes, he looks like a college. He looks like a
Doesn't
basketball.
he look like the old school Nick Nolte guy that you would see in the movies?
He looks like the guy that's coached to like what is it? Something Malloy or in like Jersey to like 6 state titles, and
Yeah.
he's been there for 34 years, and then he moves on to the college ranks, and he's gonna fix the program. Yes, he looks just like that.
Interesting coaching backgrounds, actually, for both of our local guys. Because when you look at Dusty May, I mean, his first experience was as a student manager with the Indiana team that was coached by Bobby Knight.
So what?
So some interesting influences.
There.
What's
Okay.
that?
So he did spend time with Bobby Knight because I know he was there under Mike.
Yeah.
Davis, who I think went to a Final Four.
He was a student assistant on the coaching staff, or I guess a student manager. Doing something. Maybe he was just bringing water to the guys during timeouts, but. He was on the staff while a student at Indiana, and the head coach there was one Bobby Knight. So interesting influence there. He seems to comport himself nothing like Bobby Knight. And in lieu of him appearing on the show this week, we were given an interview opportunity with Brian White. What day is that happening? Do we know that?
Tomorrow.
Yep,
That's tomorrow. That's
tomorrow. And you're
Yeah.
saying, who the hell is Brian White? And that's the AD at FAU. And he's the guy that hired Dusty May. So
he's the man behind the man.
no, we'll do that on tomorrow's program. And Jim Larranaga is going to join us later on the day. So that'll be a lot of fun talking to Jim. Bonnie Bernstein is going to join us on the show as well. You're saying, what? Who? What? Why? National Women's History Month. They're just is this another Sarney move that you made, Lubie?
I know. I booked this a long time ago.
Coerced into it by Sarney?
This is usually a very slow time in South Florida sports.
Yeah.
The Heat people don't care yet because they're not in the playoffs. And this year, people don't care because who knows if they'll be in the playoffs. The Panthers usually are letting us down. Cue what they're doing right now. And we haven't gotten to the draft yet. And the Dolphins only have 2 draft picks. So these are the dog days in South Florida sports. So I figured, okay, Bonnie Bernstein, the name that I remember very well, doing a lot of football stuff. And we've had her on before on Radio Rose and stuff. So I figured, okay, sure.
Yeah, she's actually a good conversation.
We had her on
we had her on Radio Row a couple of times. Was impressed with Bonnie Bernstein. She was doing sideline reporting. Was she not for CBS on? Was she on NFL games, Bonnie Bernstein? I want to say yes to that.
And she did, I think, the hosting thing. That Susie Colbert used to do.
Oh yeah, did a lot of that also.
A lot too, I think. Like ESPN. I think she was with ESPN for a long time and did like pregame stuff. I mean, we should probably be sure about this, but yeah, she did a lot of stuff with the NFL reporting and hosting for years. And now she has an interesting podcast series out. And yes, it is national. We're wrapping up National Women's History Month, so we'll pay more homage to that. We don't do, I'm sure, enough of that. So,
and Bonnie's going to join us on video also.
Yes,
here for you streaming freaks. Yeah, she's got to think about how sports influenced some of the top and leading achievers among women in business and in life in general. The influence of sports, and I'm sort of an advocate of that, Lubie. You know my stated philosophy on this whole thing, which I've given my position many times. I just always felt this as a kid that we were so lucky to be boys in the sense that we were able to go out there, play sports with each other. And, you learn a lot of life's lessons from, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, working with people, trying to get along with different people, people that, have different approaches than you do to a given game or whatever, situations, how you hold up under pressure, that sort of thing. And that women were missing out on that opportunity to kind of get some easy life lessons while having a lot of fun playing even recreational sports, much less organized sports. And so a very interesting concept. Nice to see that, so somebody is addressing it in this fashion. And Bonnie Bernstein will join us and talk about the 10-part series of podcasts that she has that relate to how sports were directly and or indirectly, but very important influences in the lives of many of the top female achievers that we have, including I've recently seen a lot of steam that this young lady that became the president of the Raiders. Do you still see that, Lubie? I mean, in your misogynistic fashion as just a token move? where all of a sudden the franchise names a woman as president. This is not uncommon, is it? And you're wondering how much influence do they actually have on the team itself, or is it just a business move? What would you say?
I think it's not just a business move because, as we've seen down here in South Florida, Kim Ng is very involved, if not the final word. I don't even know who the president is anymore, but we do know the name Kim Ng.
The president of the Marlins is a woman, also.
And there you go. So yeah, I don't think it's just. I think in the
I don't know her name, but she's definitely
some
a
of these
woman.
moves happened. I think some of these moves happened in the 2000s. I don't think they happen now. I think Becky, what's her name, with the Spurs is very involved in what they're doing. I think she does coach their G League team.
Yeah.
And she one day will be a head coach of an NBA team. I mean, I feel like she's been Becky Hammond has been involved in enough where she's legit. I think women definitely know, the women that are involved in the sports know their stuff. Look, a woman can fail as much as a man can fail. And that's why I treat Kim Ng the way I treat Kim Ng, because I don't think she should be treated differently. We were this hard on Larry Beinfest. We were this hard on Sampson. We were this hard on Loria. We were this hard on anyone attached to the Marlins. I'm not going to give Kim Ng the benefit of the doubt because she's a woman, because she's earned the spot. She's also earned the criticism. That's the problem.
I think she's in a semi-impossible situation that maybe even Billy Beane would struggle with. I mean, what are the Marlins? I mean, what can they possibly do to contend with the other teams, even in their own division, when it comes to
financial? Yeah, it's
putting top players on the field and having more than one guy that you think is capable of producing a legitimate major league season. And it's unfortunately that they don't have a whole lot of luck either with their players. Guys that look like they're going to be really good all of a sudden flame out within a year or two, which is another unfortunate byproduct. All right, we're going to come back in just a moment here with the lovely Bonnie Bernstein. Going to join us, Coach L, about 8:05 today, Coach Larranaga. So we're looking very much forward to that. It's always a gas talking to him. And that puts you right at the center, right with your finger on the pulse of what's going on here.
Yeah.
On the South Florida sports scene. So we're trying to stay on top of it as Coach Larranaga is going to be with us about 8:05 today, and we'll get into his thinking going into the Final Four and, of course, recap what happened during the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games that put them in this position. Two very, very convincing and dramatic victories, right? I mean, the ability to Houston was supposed to, handle them pretty easily, right? 7.5-point favorites.
Yes.
And they won that game by 14 points. I mean, and people forget these final margins are very much lopsided in favor of the Canes. And then to win that last game by 7 after trailing by 13 with 10 minutes to go. Come on, Louie. That was a hell of a performance there. And we'll find out what triggered that and what Jim thinks about all that. About 8:05 today on the Defo Show. Hialeah Park, that's a great place to go anytime. I mean, you're never going to run out of fun when you go to Hialeah Park. Whether you're in the casino, whether you're in the poker room, whether you're in the champion simulcasting room, just walking around the grounds, whether you're dancing to the beat of those Latin rhythms. Takes place on the outside party on Friday nights on the patio bar. Unbelievable. And they did a nice job there. I remember when they first put the patio bar in, I thought, wow, this is a great addition to everything else that's happening in Hialeah Park. And then when I saw the people rocking there when we were at the fights, it was like, wow, this is just absolutely fantastic. They know how to give you an opportunity to be entertained at Hialeah Park and an opportunity to win money, as explained to Andy and me by Steve Calabro about the way that they calibrate these slot machines there, more in conjunction with Vegas and Atlantic City than here, where, the state of deregulation, right? Florida.
Yeah.
Right? The only thing they want to regulate is your kids' education.
Yes. Everything.
They want to make sure they're not exposed to everything there. You wouldn't want those drag queens to be influencing anybody. Dangerous, all right?
They're very scary. Guns are very safe.
Guns are okay, man. Just everybody should have one, but a drag queen, that's
you
it.
need to watch out for those people performing and being very entertaining for the last hundreds of years. Yes.
All right, somehow we work drag queens into a Hialeah spot. But,
you get it. Because Hialeah, you get everything.
At Hialeah, you know what? They would say, hey, say la vie, man. If they were saying it in French. Yeah, I don't know how you say that in Spanish, but that's life, my friends. Enjoy it. Stop being so
Vamos, let's go. Let's have a good time. Yeah.
Andale. Yeah.
There you go.
Just keep it going. Keep it going. That's what they do at Hialeah Park. It's absolutely great. Get a player's card when you go through the door there. The rewards program is sensational. And you're going to love all of the opportunities you get, including a lot of generous allotments of free play and all kinds of food and drink discounts and just opportunities for entertainment that are really unparalleled in the gaming industry, especially if you're talking about, in Hialeah's case, not some corporate casino, but an individually owned and operated casino and entertainment destination. It's a great place to go. It's beautiful, Hialeah Park. Check it out for yourself. Just absolutely fantastic. And log on to HialeahPark.com and get a load of all the different special events and things that you can arrange in terms of private parties and have it catered by beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, Bonnie Bernstein coming up in just a moment. And later on, Coach Larranaga on the Defo Show. And we'll be back with Bonnie in a moment. Now that. It's 7:28.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go?
Sir, a lovely and talented one. I mean, the first woman and for a long time, the only woman. There are now two in the NFL Hall of Fame. I mean, in there with all of the greats, Johnny U, Joe Willie, all of our favorites, Joe Montana, the great Dan Marino, and Leslie Visser, part of the scene in the NFL Hall of Fame. But what level of distinction is it to be the first guest on our new program? Because I would imagine Leslie Visser, and by the way, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us here on the program.
Is this an after-school special?
This isn't practice. We're doing it. We're all over the world.
Congratulations to you guys. I want to know. I'm so proud to be your first guest. And, of course, I have a number of things to go over that maybe this time it could be different. You know, isn't that the gambler's creed?
You think we're going to race the past all at once here in one program? It's impossible.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, the Defo Show. Excuse me here, as the voice is a little bit suspect today.
You're doing well.
I'm hanging in there. I wasn't expecting this, to be honest with you. I thought I was going to be fine today because I woke up and I felt good. And I was like, all right, what's happening down here? It's a little bit scratchy, you know?
Your fucking arm.
Yeah, I'm operating like the one-armed man in The Fugitive. I mean, I can't even lift a cup here without grabbing it with both hands. So we'll see what happens there. But to get in to see a doctor, almost very surprising, because the first thing I do, I scream into the phone, I've got Medicare. And you would think they would give you an immediate appointment, but because they do send limousines for guys that have and people that are on Medicare, these doctors and hospitals these days. Not that I ever want to go. The Mustang keeps screaming at me. This is a funny thing. This is kind of the antithesis of the Mayo philosophy.
Yeah.
But talking about our buddy Mike Mayo, but, you know, she says, you have all this insurance. Why don't you go to a doctor? I'm like, I hate doctors. I mean, I don't hate them, but I generally don't want to go, right? I mean, you know, a physical checkup every 10 years is about all you need, isn't it? Lubie, I mean, I'm not sure that I need an oil change like Keith Richards. at this stage. Although it is amazing to me with the amount of cocaine that I consumed in the early '80s here in South Florida that the ticker is still working. In fact, was pronounced 100% in good health by a leading heart physician here in South Florida not that long ago. Yeah. They thought there were problems. And when he said that to me, I said, "You must have been looking at somebody else's pictures there, Doc, because this thing can't possibly be in that good a shape." But yeah, impossible. Impossible to get an appointment, and that's even with I literally I tattooed my Medicare card on my forehead, Luby, so I don't even have to endure long waits in the waiting room. They rush you right in to see somebody. But yeah, they're talking about like mid-May. I told the lady on the phone I'd be dead by then. And she says she had no sympathy, no empathy whatsoever. You want the appointment or not? It was that kind of thing. All right, we're going to welcome into the program, and yes, there she is. Wow, the lovely Bonnie Bernstein joins us. We have brought you Bonnie Bernstein before. I want to say at least once, maybe more on Radio Rose at Super Bowls.
100%.
But good to have you on the program, Bonnie. How are you? Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
We're doing great, but we can't figure it out. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's not exactly. And people didn't even know a basketball was round here in South Florida, and all of a sudden we have not one but two teams in the Final Four, including FAU from Boca Raton, Florida, where they only drew 300 fans for Gucci Bag Night on opening night this year, and now they're in the Final Four. It's remarkable.
It is. It's pretty amazing. And I've been asked a couple of times who I'm rooting for, and FAU is probably the team, but it's more of a personal thing. I've just been a huge Jim Larranaga fan dating back to when he was coaching George Mason and took Mason to the Final Four back in, I think it was 2006 or 2007.
Yes, 2006.
So FAU's had a pretty amazing run between football and basketball and getting to the Final Four. But guys, I think it speaks more broadly about, once the transfer portal really got up and going, and once the NIL deals first started coming in, people thought, oh, it's going to create a state of upheaval for college athletics. And to a certain extent it has. But what it's done for the game of basketball is create a level of parity that I think is compounded by the fact that now we've sort of been in this run where one and done, you may have these extraordinarily talented teams, but they're only going to be around for a year. And so ultimately, while, yeah, we all love Cinderellas in the first and second round, we especially love the Cinderellas unless they busted your bracket in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. And that's, what I think we're starting to see.
Yeah, my bracket, I was saying, looked like Vito Antifermo's face after the Hagler fight. My nose was on the side of my face like Larry Zonka. I mean, it was just unbelievable. All right, let's talk about your project here. And Bonnie Bernstein, very interesting because it's National Women's History Month. And of course, I don't know if you were locked in by the time we had this intro plan, which included, one of the pioneering women in broadcasting, the lovely and talented Leslie Visser, who has the unfortunate distinction of being a good friend of the show. I think it's something that she would denounce publicly, but she doesn't mind coming on, and she's a big fan of yours. And you've done something that I think is long overdue, and we speak about it from this context a lot, Bonnie, where I always felt like when I was growing up, which was like centuries ago, that women were missing out on the chance to get the social bonding and the life lessons that come from playing even recreational sports. And all the guys are out there and we're playing together and we're doing our thing. And the women are, unfortunately shut out from this. And now through sports, you have this series that you developed, She Got Game, an audio podcast series that talks about the relationship of sports and the influence it had on many of the most successful women in business and in sports as well.
Yeah, it's called She Got Game, Inspiring Women Inspired by Sports. You can find it on Audible. And we profile 10 women who are successful in all walks of life, who are celebrities and leaders of industry and world-class athletes. And what they all have in common is that they played sports growing up. So there will be names you recognize as athletes, like Layla Ali and Shawn Johnson, the Olympic gymnast. But what you may not know is that they've leveraged life skills learned in sports to go on and become very successful businesswomen. There are women like Chelsea Clinton and actresses Aisha Tyler and Folake Oluwapoyeku, who you know them for something else, but probably had no idea they played sports, and they share some of those stories. And then there are industry leaders, Amy Trask, who to date is the only female to serve as an NFL CEO, Danny Garcia, the only woman ever to serve as an owner of an entire league in the XFL, and y'all have a couple of XFL teams down in Florida, Sheila Johnson, the very first female Black billionaire who has ownership stakes in the Mystics and the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals. She broke the color barrier as the first cheerleader at the university, first Black cheerleader at the University of Illinois. And so we have all of these amazing women, some of whom you know played sports, many of whom you don't, but they all talk about how they have leveraged leadership, teamwork, resilience, accountability, time management, all of these critical life skills to thrive in their careers.
Bonnie Bernstein, our guest here, and the podcast series is called She Got Game. All right, now, what were some of the aspects of doing this that stood out for you? I mean, you mentioned kind of in an overview all the different things that these women were able to accomplish after experiencing things in sports. But when you're doing a series like this, I would imagine there are a few things that you go, "Whoa, man, that's fantastic." What really stood out to you, Bonnie?
Well, the inspiration for the series, interestingly enough, is research-based. So there's a study that points to 94% of all female C-suite executives, your CEOs, COOs, CFOs, all played sports growing up. So the fact that the series in and of itself is research-based is pretty cool. But I think it also fosters a really important conversation on a broader level, because typically when we're talking about athletes, they're the best of the best. They're the elite athletes who are winning championships and gold medals. But these sorts of conversations speak to the power of sports on a broader level. And for all of the girl dads out there who are listening this morning, what it does is it enables you to have a different type of conversation with your daughters about sports, because inevitably, if your daughter's competitive, she's going to want to win championships. She may want to get a scholarship. She may want to play professionally, and those opportunities may or may not be there. And what the stories these women share enable you to do as a girl dad and as a girl mom is to say, hey, play as long as you can. You may not be able to achieve your number one, number two, number three goals, but what you learn through sports will propel you to success in life. And I guess the other thing is, as somebody who's sort of a type A who's been able to find success in a male-dominated industry, every single one of these women have gone through it. They've been told they can't, they shouldn't, their ideas are too big, they're rocking the boat, they should just stay in their lane. Every single one of these women has shared these stories. And so when you listen to them, it sort of gives you a sense of comfort, because a lot of times I think we as women who are trying to achieve great things, we feel like we're alone in a boat paddling upstream. And honestly, there were some challenges in getting the series done. And just by sitting with these women, it gave me the inspiration and it gave me the comfort of understanding that I'm not alone in anything that I'm doing.
And I was going to go a different lane with my question until you said that last part, because what's been cool about having Leslie Visser on literally over the years, to the point where she texts us complaining about the stupid things we're saying, is that she peels the curtain back to some of their, yes, her struggles early are documented because she's Leslie Visser, but there are also a lot of things that we've been privy to that she didn't talk about. And I talked with Lisa Guerrero a few months ago. I'm sure you, who were in the early part of women really taking over, really finally saying, look, we belong here. You just used the term struggle for a project you did now in the 2020s. What were the struggles you had to do when you just said it? There's women CEOs all across sports, all across business, all across entertainment. You still had to deal with struggles just to get a podcast series put together?
Yes, because while we have more women in leadership positions than we ever have, it's still hard to get a concept like this across the finish line. Because when you're pitching podcasts or any sort of content ideas, the folks who are making the decisions are thinking, okay, how broad of an audience can we reach with this? And for those who haven't done the research that I have, they probably don't realize that the power of sports is real and it's meaningful and it is so much more far reaching than you would ever imagine. And so, there's that's some of the stuff I deal with as an entrepreneur. But even dating back to when I first got into the broadcasting business in the early 90s, if it weren't for the intestinal fortitude that I got playing sports. Now, I went to the University of Maryland. I did gymnastics. I blew out my ACL freshman year. I was told by the orthopedic my career was over. I came back. I had 2 other surgeries. When you go through that, and you come back and you've gone through the rehab at a time where the rehab, quite frankly, wasn't as advanced as it is now. The toughness that you build can prepare you for anything. And I say all the time, if I had not been an athlete, I would have gotten eaten alive in this industry. And that's why I think ultimately She Got Game, Inspiring Women Inspired by Sports, is so meaningful to me because it's personal. I know exactly what all of these women are talking about. And I'm a byproduct of my participation in sports.
The acceptance of women in these positions certainly has changed on the part of male sports fans, who can be a pretty harsh crowd to appeal to. And yet, Lubie and I found ourselves this morning trying to figure out what it is that Kim Ng is doing as the general manager of the Marlins. And while Brian Cashman could spend like $8 zillion, have scandalous affairs with crazy soccer moms, and still persist as the general manager of the Yankees, having not won a
Got to get
title.
that dig in there, don't you? Got
No,
to
but I
dig
mean,
in.
it's just funny because we go, okay, yeah, Cashman's the GM of the Yankees, he's going to be there forever, and yet we're looking at Kim Ng in an impossible situation, and we literally, went ahead and fit the stereotype there and said, yeah, well, what the heck is this woman doing? Did you find that these women still feel like they're under immense scrutiny? Even though they've achieved a lot, and now that the spotlight is on them in a situation like Trask, is a president of the Raiders, right? Las Vegas Raiders, who always have great expectations but always fail. I mean, do they feel like this, has added, being a woman has added even more pressure to the situation?
Well, for Amy's a bit of a unique situation because Amy never thinks and has never thought about gender. But you have women like Sheila Johnson who spoke very openly about. So Sheila, as I mentioned, she's the first female Black billionaire.
sure.
She was co-founder of BET, sold it, and now is the only woman in sports to have ownership stakes in 3 professional sports teams. So yes, almost all of these women feel like they are constantly being held to a higher standard, but rather than thwarting that, I think they embrace it. Danny Garcia, who she and The Rock own the XFL, she talked about how sports taught her to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's just, it's a bit of a profound concept. But if you think about it, if you train your brain to understand and embrace the fact that you are going to be, as Danny said, face in the wind, and you've got nobody blocking for you. If you can prepare yourself for that, all of the outside noise, the haters, the doubters, it doesn't really matter because you get up in the morning with the conviction that you are moving in the right direction. So, and then we also have some of our younger guests like Shawn Johnson, the former Olympic gymnast, and she talks a lot about, just by virtue of what we deal with as gymnasts, how to shatter that sort of expectation of ourselves that we have to be perfect. And Shawn spoke a lot, which I think some of your younger listeners might resonate with, in conversations the parents have with their kids about social media, and how when you get on Instagram, everybody looks perfect. And so there's the pressure to make yourself look like you're perfect, to sort of live up to the perception that people would have of somebody like a Shawn Johnson, who is the all-American, cute little dimples kid who was thriving in gymnastics and winning medals in the Olympics. So the number of topics that we span that are so relevant to girls and young women and empower parents to have these critical conversations with our kids is just that for me has been one of the most fulfilling parts of the project, just getting the feedback about how these women telling their stories, the uphill battles they've climbed, the way they still feel like they are facing the wind, has resonated so strongly with a really broad audience.
You have my curiosity. I mean, how do we tune in? Where do we find this stuff, Bonnie?
You go to audible.com/SheGotGame. If you have an Audible subscription, you will find it there. If you're interested and don't have an Audible subscription, the cool thing is none of these episodes, I think they're all between 20 and 30 minutes. So you can get a 30-day free trial on Audible and check them all out. Please rate. Rating is very important. So if you like it, give it 5 stars or write a review or whatever. And just thank you so much, guys, for having me on, and for all of your listeners who are interested in checking out.
No, very eloquently stated, and sounds intriguing, as my friend Al Bernstein would say, which I think you confirmed. You are not Al Bernstein's daughter.
Not related.
You're not Al Bernstein's daughter.
Not related.
I would love to be.
No, he's a good guy.
Cool.
Yeah, happens to be a sweetheart, Al Bernstein. He really is. All right, Bonnie, thanks so much. Best of luck with the series, and thanks so much for sharing time with us.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Right, Bonnie Bernstein, not Al Bernstein's daughter. I think I asked her that before.
We've had her on, I think, like 2 or 3 times.
And I ask her that every time. Am I falling in that same trap I did with Jim Larranaga, where I ask him about Billy Paul's every show?
Same 4 guys.
All right. Speaking of coaching greatness, Jim Larranaga is going to join us, and that's always a pleasure. That's about 8:05 this morning here on the Defo Show, and we're going to have a busy week. We'll have Brian White. I guess it's Dusty May would be great because
I'm going to still ask for
living the experience. Yeah,
I'm going to still ask again just because I'm a pain in the ass, and I want to get Dusty on the show since we're getting Coach Larranaga back on. But the AD is pretty cool. We've never had him on, and he is the man behind the man. So,
well, and also maybe it was enlightening to read that story about Dusty May and how he panicked after he signed his contract, and an hour later wanted to back out of it. And Brian White was a very steadying influence, I think, at that point. But and as Bonnie stated, I mean that was very true. Bonnie Bernstein, where you're going to have teams like this that pop up and they're good for a year or two. And then go back into whatever hole they crawled out of to become top programs. Now, with you had them in the Elite Eight last year. It's not like they're not a major school capable of putting together, some kind of long-lasting dynastic basketball program. Doesn't seem unfeasible, does it, Lubie? Especially not with name, image, and likeness, and that guy Ruiz in the background there. Did it not surprise you? I mean, if that's true, that Nigel Pack is getting paid $800,000 to go to the University of Miami. So if you were, I mean, I don't know that it would be fair to run this by Jim Larranaga. It's kind of like that guy asking Jimmy Calhoun about the sneaker contract.
I say anything, but
I mean, it's not illegal here. I mean, whatever was done, obviously. I mean, there's some kind of public awareness of it. If I read it, I mean, whether it's true or not, or to that level. But it is, I mean, kind of weird to think. I mean, it's not like you're talking about, Michael Jordan here getting $1 million from North Carolina, which he probably did. I don't know. Did he? I mean, was he that highly recruited?
He was. He was a American. I'm sure. I don't know why it bothers me. I've been fighting the last 2 days with people about this.
It's kind of weird, right? To think, because you're thinking, okay, if that guy's getting $800,000, well, what are the other guys thinking if they're not making any money?
We fought when this became a thing when your guy and look, you're the one team, quote unquote, you still sort of support is Syracuse. You're an alum, and they're not great in all sports, so you don't talk much about them. But the one team where I know that you sort of have still a fandom. I mean, you've been in this so long that it's hard to be a fan of anyone. But Syracuse, you sort of still, I mean, you're an alum, fine. You're the one that was like, Boeheim, what are you talking about?
Boeheim was screaming because he was, he saw the end was near.
But it's not just, but but that's the thing. That's been the story is bought this team. And I'm like, I'm not a Canes fan. And maybe it's because I'm biased toward Larranaga.
But who didn't, I guess, would be the question.
That's my thing. It's like, okay, Duke gets 4 of the top 20 recruits. Yeah. Kentucky's class, I think, had 5 of the top 25 recruits. That, to me, first of all, it's legal. They're allowed to do it, so it's not buying anything. Second, that, to me, is more buying, like going and getting what Larranaga talked to us about transfers. The bad of it from the beginning was already doing it because he's like, look, I know this is going to ruin college basketball, but I know I have to do it. So, and NIL wasn't a thing then. So why is he now, like, I don't get, first of all, Nigel Pack wasn't this big transfer. I never heard of fucking Nigel Pack.
No, me either. When I saw him the first time, I thought, wow, who's this who's this little guy out there, and what's he doing chucking up 40-footers?
Like he's a good player, and I don't know what he's worth. I think the numbers that they
I mean, he's been a big influence on their success this year, no doubt. And a streaky type of scorer,
yeah,
which you sometimes need with this team.
Jordan Miller's been there. I don't think he's an NIL guy. Wong may be getting NIL money now, but he's a junior. He's been there 3 years. To me, Larranaga has built every team the same freaking way. The difference is, and UM had to point it out to us because we were making fun of them like 3 years ago because they were struggling, and word got back.
People were actually calling for Larranaga's head. Yeah,
yes, they were struggling for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's time to move on, and we need a young guy. It's the usual thing. We need an infusion of youth in here. In terms of coaching and take the team in a new direction.
Well, my guy with UM got wind of it and literally texted me. He's like, he didn't yell at me because we're allowed to say what we want. He just wanted to point out to me the reality. And the reality was for 2 straight years, they were fucking annihilated by injuries. They were just annihilated by injuries.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years, they've been healthy. That's the only difference. It's the same teams. They built transfers, recruits, whatever the hell. They built the same teams. Just for 3 straight years, they were injured. The last 2, they've been healthy. That's it. And so that's what bothers me for some reason. I don't know why, but gets on my craw that people are saying they bought a team when I'm like, it's fucking Larranaga. Like he's done the same thing since George Mason. What do you
I mean, above reproach, Larranaga. If you found out Larranaga was some kind of criminal miscreant, doing everything against the rules, it would be a big surprise, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm not sure that any of the restrictions that were put in place by the NCAA are applicable anymore anyway. I'll say this, if you were going to make the contention that this has ruined the game or the potential to ruin the game in basketball, where one guy can make such a big difference on a team. In football, yes, okay, a quarterback comes in, you replaced a guy that absolutely sucked the year before, and that can make a big difference if you already had all the other parts in place. Like people are speculating on a pro level about the Jets.
Yeah.
But what could be more exciting than what's happened this year? What could possibly be more exciting than the way college basketball has played out this year? I mean, regardless of who wins the championship, because any of these teams could be considered somewhat Cinderella, including UConn.
Well, look, and even the professors talking about this. Like, NIL has ravaged college football. We thought it would do that with basketball. Who the fuck has mentioned NIL with basketball? Like, NIL hasn't been a big basketball story. So that's what's confusing to me is it hasn't been totally taken advantage of in basketball like we've seen A&M and Texas and Georgia and Alabama do it in football. So to bring it up now is sort of weird to me. All it's done, if it's done anything, is like you said, look at this goddamn Final Four.
Well, and the tournament as a whole, there are any number of
amazing.
other teams that could have laid legitimate claim to the fact that had one bounce gone their way or one call gone their way, they would be in the Final Four. And none of those are the schools that you normally would associate with, kind of an automatic roll into the Final Four or even into the tournament in general, where you have all of these number one seeds immediately just evaporated in this tournament. They all got annihilated too. I mean, in the end, long before it got to the stage where they were playing for the championship. So, if anything, if you were going to say that there's a trend in college basketball, you would have to think it's a very favorable one. I mean, what do you think Patino's doing right now with St. John's? The guy's out recruiting like a madman, according to the New York Post.
Okay, that's his hood.
He's at the front line at the transfer portal, like he was welcoming people onto the Love Boat, for God's sake.
Like that. Look, the reality is it's legal, so it shouldn't. If they're paying, good for them. You should pay too. But my problem is, from what we know, again, I'm saying this a lot lately. We've talked to this guy throughout the season, every season. His teams have been very, very similar. From what we know, he's gotten a lot of transfers. He's done some recruiting. He's gotten some local kids. He's gotten some kids from over here. What's the only thing I know that's different, because I was yelled at, is when they had a stretch where they kept getting freaking injured, and now they're not. Like the Bruce Brown guy that's been in the league forever now.
Yeah.
Was a fucking 5-star that he got before NIL. He was hurt the whole friggin' year.
Right.
And he was a guy that was drafted in the first round and has been with the Nets forever. He's been he was a key cog on a playoff team. He was like the 4th man on a playoff team. He's had guys like that. That's not new. Their issue has been like your Canes teams of the 90s. This guy would be amazing, come in and get freaking hurt.
Oh yeah, Leonard Hamilton every day. I mean, I don't know that I ever saw his face because he always had his hands covering it. It was this. I tell you, Defo. No, he was very straightforward. Leonard
And
is a known
Larranaga would do
asset.
that every year. Larranaga would talk to us about it. Just sucks because and it would go down the list. Remember, they had like 8 guys hurt. There was one time where they had like 5 or 6 guys, and it was just a joke. Like,
I tend to be dismissive of injuries as the reason for failure, even though we know it's obviously very much applicable, depending on who it is. But yeah, I mean, when you hear coaches, well, if we were healthy, you always think, all right, figure out something else to do in that situation. But a basketball team, like we said, I mean, look, he gets this. Omir was a transfer.
Yep.
And I mean,
it was an NIL.
the team, seems to really rally around this guy and his energy also. Not that they all don't put out. I mean, the Canes, all of these college basketball teams that we're watching in the Final Four really hustle. You're watching the pace of this. Where I used to be much more of an NBA fan than a college basketball fan, but I think the reverse may be coming true.
Yeah.
Where I find myself, and maybe it's just because it is the NCAA tournament, but I'm more engrossed and engaged in these college games than I am in most NBA games until they get to the climactic moments.
Yeah.
Which is the old theory that all you need to do is tune into the last 4 minutes of an NBA game, and then that's where all the activity is taking place. But yeah, I mean, the early stages of NBA games are just not quite like what you get in these college games, which are condensed down to 40 minutes versus 48. And I kind of I'm sorry the women went away from this. I never really cared for it growing up. The idea of playing 2 20-minute halves, Lubie, I was always like a 4 quarters guy. But I do like this format in college basketball. I don't think they should mess with it. And they did in the women's game, right? They now play quarters.
Oh, did they? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
You obviously
more than just
haven't tuned into 1 second of women's college basketball.
Not to me at all.
These girls are all crying as they come off the court, man. I mean, there's no crying in baseball, right? Every one of them is, just busted up in tears. I guess we've seen a few guys crying after the game, but no, it seems to be very much, almost a given that if a girl is coming off to the sidelines late in a losing effort, she will be in tears in the NCAA tournament. got knocked out. South Carolina was dominating its game last night. I think the spread might have been overcome late in that game. That they played. South Carolina, which has been unbeaten for like 2 years. A late barrage of threes made by their opponent, which I can't even remember who they were playing, but all of a sudden they hit like a ton of threes. Was it Ohio State? I think they were in action last night.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, South Carolina looked pretty dominant in that game, and is an odds-on favorite to win it all, and has been all season long. So we'll see what happens. UM with a pretty good run though. I made it to the Elite Eight, and then got knocked out by LSU. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even trying to.
You don't even know that they play quarters. That's
defiance to Sarny. Like I should get Crutchfield on, so I probably will.
Yeah.
But that one was so out of left field in the middle of what was going on that I openly said, screw you, Sarny. And the women's stuff where the women's NCAA tournament, look, I have in my life watched it. Don't get me wrong. I have in my life. When UConn and Tennessee had the rivalry, that became a mainstream thing. I did watch that. I won't lie. But him bring up the fucking women's NIT, I was like, okay, dude, you're just being.
Yeah. I think Mayo hit it on the head when he was bugging him about Division III women's one-on-one wiffle ball.
So in accordance with that, I've done like this 14-year-old teenager thing where I'm like rebelling against him, and I've watched no women's on purpose. Where in the past I would like linger into like a half of a game. I purposely, like, if it's on TV, I avert my eyes because I just don't want to even give him that satisfaction.
Oh no, I'm sure you deliberately put off calling Dusty May for an interview with Dusty May, just deliberately because of antagonizing Sarny, who is giving you the business like every day because we didn't have the Ottawa Senators backup third string forward, third line forward on the show, who was making history somehow. All right, Jim Larranaga is making history. He's going to join us next, so hopefully the voice will hold up through that, and we'll be able to. You don't need to say much to Jim. He's just a fascinating guy to talk to, And I found Bonnie Bernstein very compelling with her stuff. What did you think, Lubie?
I assume that's why I booked her. I guess she's fallen off in years, but when
I haven't seen or heard from her, in terms of sportscasting for a long time. Have you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. She went on her own, so maybe she
became an entrepreneur. Look, she's producing stuff now.
Maybe she got sick of dealing with the ESPNs and the CBSs of the world that she went on to do. Well, good for you, Mayo. I purposely, again, I'm rebelling against Cerny. Maybe she just chose to take it onto herself and not deal with all the corporate bullshit, even though she still has to, because I guess that's what it is in this world.
You think Rinaldi would have had a tough time, or Jeremy Schaap selling?
I don't know. I don't know. She sort of intimated that it was like, the woman thing is still an issue, which I'm sure it is. Case in point.
She got an illustrious list of guests. I mean, it wasn't like she was getting like second bananas there. All right, we're coming back with Jim Larranaga. Certainly no second banana to anybody on our show, and we love having him on. That's coming up in just a few minutes here on the Defo Show. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's Mike Lubie. Lubitz, 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's lunchbox.
Yes.
What'd you do with that knish, Lubie, by the way? Did you eat it?
I wanted to bring it to you. You.
I didn't think of it.
I don't worry about it. And I'm like, what do you mean? You're on my way home. And you're
Did you eat it in the car? Did you eat
I
it
still
in the car?
have it. I don't eat in the car like you do.
No? You still have it? Wow.
I have it, and I have most of the soup. If you want it, I can.
No, I probably could have used the soup, but
I wanted to give it to you. It was freaking great. I had like a cup of it because Mayo starts eating it, even though.
He puts.
I told him to. It weirds me out seeing a spoon. Like I'm not a weird eater. Like I don't mind sharing, but like a spoon and liquid is a thing that like weirds me out a little bit. So
especially since he just told you that he was getting sick.
Yeah, he was like, no, not sick. Like, yeah, it's weird. Last night I had the chills. I had a fever. I couldn't speak. I was passing out.
All right, we better run. We have Jim Larranaga coming up in just a sec here, so stick with us. Head coach of the UM basketball team going to the Final Four, going to be with us in a moment. Now that
The time.
we're talking about Mayo eating soup, it's 8:04.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Jim Larranaga, we love you, Jim Larranaga. Coach Larranaga, won't you do us a favor? Bring us a winner. One stinking winner, deliver a winner in this town filled with losers.
Buenos dias. The cafecito is piping hot. Why not enjoy it with Defo and Lubie? It's now time for the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz here, and we welcome in. And maybe the song should have been "You Make Me Feel Like Dancing." Gonna dance the night away. We welcome in the man of the hour, the head coach of the University of Miami basketball team, Jim Larranaga, joins us here on the program. Jim, how are you, my friend? And where did you get the moves? I guess that would be the main question that's circulating around town. Not how did you do it, but those dance moves. I mean, you put us old Jewish guys to shame. As I'm still doing the two-step. You have legitimate, steps, Coach Larranaga. How are you?
Well, it goes back to the St. Helena's Friday night dance in the Bronx.
And Coach Curran, yes.
That's how I met my wife dancing. We were at a place called the Bronx Irish Center, and the band was playing, and I asked her to dance, and it was love at first sight.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. I mean, you haven't lost a step, and I think she was dancing with you after the win over Texas also.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That was great stuff. All right, let's go back and track the route that has now taken you to the Final Four. You've been there once before with George Mason, another sort of Cinderella story, although I don't know that UM qualifies in that count after winning the regular season in the ACC. But, people had you counted out many times. You are like the Arturo Gatti of basketball, and every time you're thinking, wow, that's it, that this is going to be too monumental of a task. You guys come up even bigger, including that first game in the Sweet 16 round when you took on Houston, a team that was supposed to come at you in waves and give you all kinds of problems. And you handled them. I mean, that might have been your best game of the tournament, in spite of the drama that was associated with the Texas win. Your team was a machine in that game.
Yeah, here's what I would say. Whether it was Houston or Texas, the guys were so focused on executing the game plan, and that is the whole key. Against Houston, they packed it in and tried to take away the twos, and we nailed 11 threes, shot the ball really well from the perimeter. Texas, on the other hand, came out and pressured us and denied us, so we started driving them to the basket. That's why you see someone like Jordan Miller, who's a great driver, get to the foul line and go 13 for 13 from the foul line. How good was that guy?
Oh, my God. We were saying, Coach, if you went to the park and were just playing an imaginary game with yourself because none of your friends were around and maybe it was raining a little bit, and you took like 20 shots of any type, you would have a tough time making them with nobody around.
Yeah.
Oh, that's for sure. He was 7 for 7 from the field, 13 for 13 from the foul line, 20 consecutive shots. And you got to add to that his passing, his defense, his rebounding. I mean, the guy does everything well.
Well, what a polished player, too. You've been touting him all year. I think one of the announcers alluded to a statement and credited it to you that you thought he was the most underrated player in Division I basketball. And if you ever want a testament to that, it certainly was in this game against Texas, which for most of the game was pretty much of a struggle and found you down by 13. The story of the kids in the elevator, maybe you could relay that to our audience here. Prior to the Houston game, we were talking about packing it in the paint.
Yeah, so we have our evening meal the night before the game at 7 o'clock. We have a team meeting at 7:30. And my coaches and I go over the game plan. And the strong emphasis, the message to the players was, against Houston, we've got to pack it in the paint. They're a two-point shooting team. They're going to make some threes like every team does, but against these guys, we got to pack it in the paint. And we did a demonstration where I had DJ Irving, my assistant coach, take a basketball. We taped down the court in the ballroom where we were having our meeting. And then I put all 5 starters in the 3-second lane and told DJ to try to get to the rim. And of course, he couldn't do it. Then the players left. About 12 of them jumped on the first elevator. They pushed a button to go to their floor, and the elevator got stuck.
Oh, no.
Oh, geez.
So that we had to call the fire department.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
There were a dozen firemen there. They had to shut off the electricity. They had to figure out a way. The hotel we stayed in was 100 years old. Can you imagine the elevator?
God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was the size of most closets. and I'm not talking about walk-in closets. I'm just talking about like a hotel closet. We had 12 players. Norshad Omier took off his T-shirt and sat on the floor of the elevator while the firemen first took them, probably 5 or 10 minutes to get to the hotel, and then another 20, 25 minutes to actually get the door open so we could get the guys out.
Oh my God.
So during the Houston game, Houston went on a little bit of a run. And at the timeout, I looked at everybody. I said, look it, we got to pack the paint like we did the elevator last night.
And it worked. Well, whatever you need in terms of motivational, sayings at the time that can trigger your team to get on a run. All right, let's get into this Texas game because I have to say, Coach, I wasn't feeling it there. Down 13. And I remember I was talking to somebody and people were texting back and forth. And I was saying, this game, in fact, it was the lovely and talented Leslie Visser. We were thinking that this isn't trending right. What's happening? It looked like Texas was getting, some offensive boards in there when Omier was out of the game and cashing in on the second chance opportunities. And then all of a sudden, this came out of nowhere, Coach. How did you manage to have these guys turn it around, or did they just have something click in where all of a sudden they're intense at the defensive end? And as you said, I mean, can you ever imagine a comeback like this without hoisting up a bunch of threes?
I watched and listened to the game last night. The broadcast crew of Jim Nance, Phil Raftery, and Grant Hill did a great job. And there was one point in the game in the second half that Grant Hill, in analyzing what had happened, was so accurate. He said, now that Norshad Omier is out of the game, Coach L and his staff have decided to switch all the ball screens. Mm. And that was the difference. We decided at one of the timeouts, the way they were getting their three-point shots and spreading our defense out was we were trapping the ball screen. They were pulling us away with the trap, pulling the trap away from the rim, and throwing it to the roll man in the middle of the court. Mm. And then he was able to attack 4-on-3. And so we decide, okay, we normally turn people over. We're not able to turn these guys over. They're not making any mistakes. Let's go to switching and see if we can keep them from getting that open. And the guys did a fantastic job. That's Wooga Poplar shut down Jabari Rice. And Jordan Miller came up with a deflection and a steal. Wooga got a rebound. And all of a sudden, Texas wasn't scoring regularly like they had been. And then I think also the team that's out in front often feels the pressure to stay out in front. And we were able to kind of chip away at the lead, one possession at a time. We got it to within 4. And then I knew we've been in so many games this year in the ACC that we're really good in close games. We don't win them all, but we executed very, very well. And when you have someone like Jordan Miller and Isaiah Wong, you just, at a timeout, I just said to those guys, hey, doesn't matter what offense we want to run, just score. Mm. And Isaiah said, okay, give me the ball.
Well, and that's what you saw. And that's what's interesting is, and that's why we love talking to you is, yes, we love going old school and Defo picking up names that no one's heard of since 1968. And you grew up with them and they're like your cousin. And we love that. But we also love that you're new school. Like you've embraced the 3-ball, you've embraced analytics, you've embraced all that stuff. But what we find so often in this day and age, especially like when the shots aren't falling or when you're against a defense that's looking to take away the 3-ball, teams say screw it and keep shooting it. What I find interesting is you knew going in already, got it in your kid's head already that whether they were falling or not, it didn't matter. Once things got tough, you could see it. Like they were just going at the basket, Pack and Miller and O'Meara, and they were just aggressive and Wong in a way that most teams don't. Now everyone wants to move the ball, get to the basket, kick it out, shoot a three. You guys weren't. You guys were down 13, which you'd want to shoot threes more, and did the opposite. You guys went like sort of old school and said, look, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to go after them. We're going to get to the line, and we're going to get baskets any way we need to, which seems to be a departure from most teams nowadays.
Well, I agree with you because, one of the things I see, you see it in college, you see it in the NBA, and you even see it. I have grandsons, and I watch some of their games online, and you see it in those games. Everybody falls in love with the three-point shot. And everybody thinks a 15-foot jump shot, a mid-range shot, is the worst shot you can take. It's not. It's not a lay. Yeah, but what I tell our players is simply this: take the shots you're good at making.
Yeah.
So Wooga Poplar and Isaiah Wong are elite 15-foot jump shooters. I would match them against anybody at any level of the ability to dribble to the elbow, the foul line area, the baseline, elevate and shoot a shot. They shoot the ball extremely well. Wooga had 3 or 4 of those against Texas. Isaiah, almost all his baskets, we ran an out-of-bounds play for him. He had a baseline jumper.
Yep.
We called Horn's rescreen, which is a play for him. He's at the point. He gets one ball screen, then he gets the second ball screen. He drives it into the elbow, elevates and shoots a jumper. So players are not great at making every shot, every kind of shot, but they are. Almost everybody has their pet moves, their best shots. We call it your bread and butter, and that's what our guys did. One of the things about Jordan Miller, he's so good at reading the defense and what you're giving him. If you give him a 3, he'll bury a 3. But if you come out and pressure him, he's going to drive it right by you. That's why we got to the foul line so often.
Yeah, Wong showed shades of Kawhi Leonard on a run there.
Yes, he actually.
With all of these different turnaround jumpers that he was taking, and perfectly executed. And of course, it doesn't hurt. I mean, the coach doesn't lose any sleep when what were you at 19 for 21 from the free throw line?
Yes.
Oh no, I think we
in the second half.
More than that. Oh, that was second half.
Yeah.
So, again, one of the things is you got to take what the defense gives you, and with us, the 3 just wasn't there. We only took 8 of them, and we ended up the game 28 to 32 from the foul line, 87%.
Wow.
We outscored them from the foul line by 17 points, 28 to 11.
Wow.
So when you think of strategy, you think of a game plan, you got to ask yourself, one of the things, I'm not, a big baseball fan, but I know a little bit of baseball from growing up in the Bronx and following, the Yankees. One of the things that I always noticed about managers in baseball, when a certain batter was up, a guy they were concerned about, let's say he was left-handed and your pitcher was right-handed, they'd immediately go to the bullpen and say, no, this guy's too good against right-handed pitchers. We've got to bring in a lefty who can throw him curveballs. And that's really what you have to do. It's a chess game. Your opponent makes a move, you got to have a counter move for that. And look at what we did, Norshad O'Meara. My coaches were mad at me at the end of the first half. Norshad only had 1 foul, and I took him out for the last 2.5 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
I said, Coach, why are you taking him out? I said, because we need him for the second half. Because last year, I left Sam Wardenberg in there, and he picked up his second. Then he immediately got his third to start the second half. And then all of a sudden, he was out of the game in the second half.
Yep.
And, there was so many things at halftime. I told the players, we were up by 6 against Kansas. at the half last year in the Elite Eight. And they came out with a vengeance, really took it at us, got us in foul trouble, got to the foul line. We need to do the same today. We're down 8, but we need to attack these guys. And that's exactly what happened. You really have to have the vision of how the game's going to be played and what you need to do to execute your plan.
Oh, Amir picked up that first foul when he came off the bus. It seemed like, so that puts you in a little bit of a jackpot. All right, let's look ahead real quickly here, and we thank you so much for taking time to be with us. I know you're probably inundated with stuff, Coach, and it's always a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, win or lose. But this was so great. The Final Four also includes FAU. I don't know if you're in touch at all or in contact with Dusty May. But that's a hell of a story. San Diego State is there, and you guys draw UConn, which everybody sees as the big juggernaut now, and
Right now.
and a favorite to go ahead and ultimately win the title with the odds makers. What is your thought about going there? And it's your second trip now. It's been 17 years, a different set of circumstances. So if you can kind of capsulize your thoughts on going to the Final Four and what you're facing in UConn.
Well, first of all, back in 2006, when we took our George Mason team, the team we had to beat was UConn then.
Yep.
Right.
So now it'll take a great effort to beat UConn to get to the championship game. And Dusty May texted me right after our game, and I got right back to him. How about this? Last year we played FAU at FAU.
Yes.
Any idea how the game ended?
I'm going to say they gave Gucci bags to everybody that walked out the door.
We went to FAU. Everybody told me you're crazy for playing on the road. I said, no, we got to get used to playing good teams on the road.
Yeah.
Isaiah Wong went coast to coast, and we beat him at the buzzer by 2.
Geez,
Wow.
So I knew then Dusty May is building a tremendous program. And a lot of the fruits of his labor, he and his staff, you see that in the NCAA tournament right now. And it'll be one heck of a matchup. San Diego State knocked off Alabama, and FAU has been on a roll. They got more wins than anybody in the country right now.
No, they've been great. And UConn, a team that, people that were handicapping the tournament were saying, well, you know what? They're in there with a live shot, certainly to make the Final Four. The way they annihilated Gonzaga, I don't know if you've looked at that yet, but I think that came as the biggest eye-opener with regard to UConn and their chances in the tournament. What are your thoughts about facing them?
Well, the biggest thing is my staff and I are working on a game plan, because the whole key is, can we execute our game plan better than UConn implements its game plan? Because every team is beatable. It's not like someone's unbeatable. You have teams, maybe in years past that everybody's saying, oh, they're destined for the Final Four before the year ever begins. And maybe it comes to fruition. But right now, there's so much parity in college basketball, and all the prognosticators are, picking the games, and then you find out, no, that was an upset. Oh, no, that was an upset. Look at when a team like FDU can beat a team like Purdue.
Yep.
That is amazing.
Yep. Did we lose Coach Larranaga there?
Said that was amazing.
Oh, okay.
He's there.
There you go. I saw the.
Other guys that got quiet.
It is phenomenal. So as you head out there, and it's a weird perspective though. Have you ever? Have you been to that Energy Stadium? Because we were there for the Final Four when Villanova beat North Carolina in that dramatic game. And the look in the stadium, I mean, how much does that change the perspective for players? And is there a way to get used to that early in the game?
Yeah. It's been my personal experience when our George Mason team got to the Final Four, that the dome, 75, 80,000 people, and you're playing in a football stadium.
Yeah.
That venue, you do have to get used to.
Mhm.
It feels like you're playing outdoors.
Yep.
The one thing is our team has played in the Carrier Dome,
Mm.
so we have some experience with it. But it'll be a different environment. We'll get a chance to practice on Thursday and Friday,
Oh, good.
and then hopefully play a great game on Saturday.
All right. Well, I don't know if we should hope for this or not. I mean, let's hope the hotel elevator isn't 100
Yeah,
years old. And
exactly.
I, I, I don't know how you maintain your cool when you got that call, Coach.
Oh my God.
But we wish you the best of luck. It was
Good luck.
fantastic and a great, great story being written here. I don't know if the tournament's ever been more exciting. I know we say this every year, but and you've been around a lot of them. I mean, is this the wildest you've ever seen?
It really is, and I'm cheering for an all South Florida
Yes.
championship game.
Yes, let's do it.
We're looking forward to it. And,
I got to run.
yeah, thanks. I always appreciate it, Coach. Coach Jim Larranaga, ladies and gentlemen. What a great guy, man. How
Just
could you
give us
not root for
30
this
minutes.
guy? It was longer than practice. Yeah,
We've never had him that long. Like literally the week of the Final Four, and we just got 30 minutes. We got over 20 minutes with him the week of the Final Four.
that was great too. Very illuminating, wasn't it?
Oh,
I
it's
mean, that
amazing.
was a terrific story about the elevator. I caught that, and I was like, "Really? That happened?" I mean, imagine you're the head coach of this team that's going into a giant ball game against the number one seed in your regional. You're dying to get back to the Final Four again after 17 years after the Cinderella story of George Mason. Your players are seeking to avenge what they thought was a hideous feeling that they got from losing in the Elite Eight last year. So they and who was the most vocal advocate of that? What was this Jordan Miller kid who is very eloquent and well spoken? Already has a degree in engineering from the University of Miami, I guess, and he is 20 for 20 on shots in that game. Yeah. Lubie, go out to the park tonight and grab a basketball and imagine yourself just with nobody guarding you. Playing in a game, and it's like, okay, Lubie from 15, there's the bank shot, and it's good. And take 20 shots, 13 from the free throw line, and see if you can make them all.
You're not making all of them. I mean, you're not. Like the fact that, and they weren't uncontested. And this is the Elite Eight, and this is with a deficit. Like the fact.
Yeah, while you're getting hammered by Texas, and it looks like the game is going completely the other way.
Look, I think, and that's also why we like Larranaga, because like Larranaga coaches the way we think as fans. Like we're watching a game, and you and I've talked about this. Like when teams are, even when they're making the three ball, to make every shot a three, I don't understand. Let alone when they're not. Like they're like those games where the Rockets would be 2 for 38, and it's like, why after 25 did they shoot the next 13? Like
try something different for sure.
Like, but I thought they had changed it. No, Larranaga was a fucking soothsayer. He knew going in, not only their game plan, that what the other team's game plan was going to be. It's like there's no way they're going to let us do this. Like because they showed a stat in the middle of that game. UM had made 6 or early in the game. UM made 6 or more threes in like every game or like the last 20, like some ridiculous stat.
They have an assortment of guys that can sink threes that when they go up with the basketball, you're not saying, oh my God, what are you kidding me? Cycly shooting a three?
No, every guy can hit a three. So, but what's interesting is they do rely on the three. And even before the game, Larranaga's like, nope, we can't do that this game. They're not going to let us. Be ready to go to the fucking basket. And Jordan Miller's like, okay.
Hey, who hit that one on the head, sent me a text early in the game, said UM can't get a three off.
Yeah.
All right, so that's interesting because I didn't realize that Jim Larranaga knew very well that was going to be the case, and it was surprising because I believe the second half they didn't make a single three in that comeback, and I don't know that they attempted. I mean, did they attempt more than one or two? Did they attempt any?
I don't think they did. I think he openly is saying we weren't even trying for it.
Yeah,
like, we know Wong, Poplar.
That is Wong's game though. When he goes up, he did look like Kawhi Leonard, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. No, he did. And when you said that, I'm like, you reminded me of some, because there's a few, DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker are new dudes that are like, I'll shoot mid-range jumpers. You want to give me a wide open 16-footer? I'll take the easier two than a covered three, which you think.
Right, and the way they rise up to take the shot, and kind of falling back a little bit.
Yep.
And, but getting the shot off easily over whatever outstretched hands they're facing. And even in some traffic, Pretty artful second half there for Isaiah Wong, who had only 2 points in the first half as UM was trailing by 8 at halftime. So interesting. And of course, Jim Larranaga is right in touch with Dusty May. All right, we're going to have Brian White. He's the AD at FAU. He's going to join us. Now, he's not going to be talking about the can drive, is he?
No.
That was always my big fear. Yeah.
He's talking about this. He's talking about the run.
All those years I was doing Hurricane Hotline, and I loved Paul D. And Sam Jankovic was obviously an innovative guy. Brought back the basketball program. Was a very sort of fiery speaker, and a kind of guy that was always trying to inspire interest and affection for the University of Miami programs and funding. And if you'd like to give money, man. Are ADs in some senses very much like TV evangelists? Oh, yeah, man, you see this? The new facilities here, but it's going to cost money, kids.
Yes, that's actually their. I didn't realize that was their job. I thought their job was more administration. In this day and age, their job is fundraiser. That's literally their job.
Wasn't it Donna Shalala? That was her big thing, right? She was, a big-time fundraiser, big time enough to get elected to Congress, right?
Yes.
Is she still a congresswoman, Donna Shalala, or did she go down in flames to the Republican right?
I don't know when she lost, who she lost to, but when I looked it up the last time, it said former. So
okay, yeah. So she got annihilated in an election by somebody that was recommending that we shut down schools altogether and outfit everybody with guns. That's what a world, my God. I don't want to think about the real world while we have the Final Four euphoria going here in South Florida. That's for sure. All right, we're going to come back in a moment here and regroup a little bit. Jim Larranaga, fantastic, though. And to give us that kind of time during the week where he's prepping for the Final Four, I don't know, he probably had a bus to catch to Houston.
No, he probably has interviews all day. Like, yeah. That's the thing is I jokingly was like, I hope we get them this week because they're both going to be wanted. The Final Four is the big thing right now. So nationally, every show is going to want both Larranaga and May. So the fact that Tuesday we were able to get him at 8:00 and then he did 20-something minutes is amazing. It's impressive. And it's a testament to him. It's a testament to the program. And it's why we've been rooting this group on. And I'm behind them 100%.
Yeah. We do owe it to Sony that we even have. Although we had a connection with FAU. We were always very generous with time at FAU.
100%.
By comparison to probably other programs here in town or even other sports media who, the Sun Sentinel didn't even have somebody covering the team, right? Or did Dave Hyde say they did? Did they ever decide to send Hyde? Do we know? Can you find out from Dave Hyde? Are they sending him to the Final Four?
Mayo wanted me to ask Larranaga if they had an extra room because he would give Hyde his points to fly there. I'm sure Hyde has enough points. He doesn't.
Dave Hyde, premier columnist, right? A syndicated columnist. One of the leading guys, whatever group owns the Sun Sentinel. Is it the Tribune? I don't know.
I don't know.
One of the leading guys. I mean, they can pop his column anywhere, and it's pretty much going to be engaging, even if you're not a fan of South Florida sports. And he's written many, many great series of articles and all kinds of good stuff, right? That thing on Jake Scott, brilliant. How about when he caught the fact that Parcells was taking care of some guy that was begging for money on the streets?
Yep, the poor guy, yep.
And was taking advice from the guy.
Yep.
Right? The guy saying, hey, you know what? Your left tackle sucks.
What do you mean?
Parcells would give him a stick, and then, he would make his day.
He's the one that told him to draft Jake Long. That's the famous story. That he went with Jake Long because of that guy.
Dave Hyde, who comes up with this stuff.
What do you mean? He's a best-selling author right now. Like, it's not like he's some has-been or whatever. Like, his book Swagger is a best-selling book right now, and he is still currently turning out column after column. Yes, I don't know. I know that.
You would think, and we love Mayo for this, but you would think that his spending habits on the road probably what was the first thing that caused a little bit of judgment coming from the top about these sports writer expense accounts and how much money they were spending to have these guys travel with the teams, huh?
Well, when he tells his stories on the road, they're very different than Perkins.
Hyde is the type of guy that just writes his story and goes back to the hotel room, has a cup of tea, and goes to bed. No,
he has a beer. He's a Midwest guy. Like, I'll have a beer, but like he's talked about it. He likes wings, a burger, beer. Mayo's like, what?
Yeah, Mayo's at whatever the local version of the Catherine is there, getting a $90 chicken parm.
He's like, you didn't get the bone-in ribeye with the 1999.
See, but I respect Mayo for that because I think fudging expense reports against the company is something that is is well deserved by anybody that goes out there and has to take these kind of trips. going to major sporting events for free. You're already taking advantage of these guys. I used to have to rape them for my losses at Exarban when I was covering the College Baseball World Series. I think I was at 2 of them, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was enjoying the simulcasting there and the screen-to-screen action, which wasn't available here in South Florida at the time because we're always, about 20 years behind in terms of any kind of reasonable legislation when it comes to having fun. Imagine.
Well,
Think about this. I mean, any asshole can grab a gun now and have a concealed weapon without a permit or any kind of regulation.
They don't even want background checks. No background check. Just here.
But they don't want you playing craps in the Native American casino that is raking in money right and left, because that might endanger your sense of humanity.
What do you mean? It's literally the definition of insanity and oxymoron. Drag queens, who are probably as peaceful as anyone, will hurt you, will hurt children. Because remember, it's all about children. Will hurt children. Guns, which we've seen now in almost 130 times across the country, we don't care if we're not worried about them.
What do you think Mayo's expense accounts look like compared to Dave Hyde's?
Oh, God.
I told you about the time that both Sonny Hirsch and I had a bill in for the same restaurant after I had picked up the tab for the entire coaching staff, knowing that I was going to get reimbursed. And this was no, it was a baseball coaching staff. All right, so we were out in Omaha at some steakhouse that Sonny loved, and and we're in there, and it wasn't like it was unreasonable or anything, but I got stuck with like a $400 tab or something, maybe more.
And you took the coaches out.
So, and I paid it, right? And then Sonny also had submitted the same thing.
He didn't pay it.
As if he paid it. I was like, wow, I thought I was playing some games to try and balance out my losses at the track. But this guy, wow, no shame. Have ye no shame? And then knowing that I paid that check, I mean, what was I going to do? Was I not going to turn it in? And Sonny was making probably 3 times the money I was at the time.
Exactly. He's making more, and you did pay it.
Insane.
That's impressive.
But I would imagine Hyde would be of limited expense, if he was out on the road there. And they used to tell us, I remember one time getting the instruction, make sure you rent the cheapest car you could find. That was radio, though. These newspapers had big budgets back when they had advertising and actually had some circulation. All right. I am going to sign up, though. That was a great idea by Mike Mayo. Everybody sign up for $1 for the 6-month plan.
Was
that Andy that came up with that? Or
yesterday? Andy was like, we should all sign up for the $1 6 months and get Dave Hyde.
Get Dave Hyde to the Final Four. What a disgrace it would be if a local newspaper had nobody there and UM met FAU in the championship game on a Monday night. You can't send somebody out there on a Sunday and act like you're a big time newspaper.
In there.
No.
They're both playing in the Final Four. Then don't be a newspaper. Like either be a newspaper or don't. Like
at that point, you just have to throw in the towel and go out of business.
Like if you're dying, you're dying. But if you're not, if you're going to be in business, you're in business. Like pick.
Couple of grand to get some good stories. I mean, what would the expenses be? If you went out there now.
Well, the problem is the hotel room is nuts. And buying a plane ticket last minute for a place that the hotel room is nuts is going to be a lot of money, but it's worth it though. Like
they should have thought of this long ago. No.
Yeah. Why weren't you at least preparing for it?
Because nobody in their right mind would have ever seen this scenario. That's the beauty of it. It's impossible to have predicted that FAU and UM would be in the Final Four. Impossible.
Larranaga texted back to Dusty May. How about that? They're the coaches.
All right, we got to run. Speaking of coaches, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, a great place to go. Key Largo, mile marker 104. I mean, we talk about it a lot. You see the aerial shots there during the video commercial that we play for Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. It's funny, and we always say this, the place never looks like the brochure. But in this case, it's just the opposite. As beautiful as that looks, it doesn't begin to give you a sense of what it's like to be there at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. So I would suggest this. If you're heading for the Keys, you can make that your ultimate destination. It's even worth it to drive down there like Mike Mayo did for a day, right? He took his daughter down to the Keys there. He had himself a blast. Yes. And my first and probably last stop would have been Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, right there in Key Largo on mile marker 104, because they have all the food and drink that you could possibly want and a wide variety at that. Just about anything that you could possibly desire, whether it was the freshest of seafood or the pizzas and the nachos. They have it all, and obviously, I mean, plentiful supply of alcohol at both the outside bar and the restaurant inside. It's a great place. They have the sports bar there. They have music going all night and day, and into the dusk as the sun sets over the bay. You just can't beat it. It's absolutely dynamite. Great getaway experience. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:42.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the program. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lewis, the voice is fading a little bit on me here, Lubie. So we are happy to be with you as always. And it was great that Jim Larranaga was on. Always illuminating, is he not, Jim Larranaga? I mean, you might have watched the game, and you're always looking for somebody that can help you analyze a game. I mean, that's what this business is all about, right? Hey, maybe we can paint a better picture for you. I don't think you could have gotten a better picture. Because sometimes, I mean, it looks random as to what's happening out there on a basketball court or a football field or, I mean, to a lesser extent, baseball, hockey, nobody understands, right? I mean, even the coaches have no idea what the hell's going on the ice. Oh, yeah, we wanted to shoot the puck and then shoot the puck and then shoot the puck. And if you kicked off the boards there and, we knew it was going to tip off so-and-so's stick. How do you design a play? Right?
Yeah, I love that.
Guys are on skates, for God's sake.
That's always my favorite with soccer. They're like, you don't understand what's going on. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not fighting.
Soccer is a putz game. I almost said that to Bonnie Bernstein, that, hopefully none of these women had a foundation in soccer. Bonnie Bernstein was on a show earlier with us, if you didn't catch it. And actually, what was pretty compelling, I mean, she actually, I'm not inclined, I mean, believe it or not, here we are in this business. And I'm not inclined to, turn on podcasts. Are you? I mean, do you listen to specific podcasts, or do you have enough of it doing them
That's the
that you're thinking, okay, the last thing I'm going to do is listen? Although, I mean, you would watch a lot of TV or listen to a lot of radio when you're in those businesses. So
yes.
I would imagine it would be appropriate, to see how other people handle their podcasting.
I should do more podcast listening. I don't.
Yeah, my son's a big podcast fan. He was on a Joe Rogan long before a lot of other people got into it, and he said the guy just lets it all hang out with different people that are of interest. Even though isn't Rogan some staunch right wing?
Rogan's all over the place. Rogan actually, because of his COVID stances, people took him to be far right. He just wants the truth. Is, I guess, his thing. He has a bunch of different people, high, low, and he's all over the place when it comes to his opinions.
It's amazing. You got like 100 million from somebody, which was one of the early, mega podcasting deals, and certainly would be enough money for me to get out lifetime if somebody was going to come along and offer us something here for. I don't want to say this shit, but no, for what we're doing. But I was never. I mean, Rogan was one of those guys like Carson Daly that had a monumental career and is still going. And you're wondering how is this possible, right?
Yeah, it's like Rogan's fine, and like he gets interesting people, and he has them. It's like a Howard Stern thing where like he has them on for 2 hours in person.
Right.
You would think,
and they spill their guts apparently.
Yes, you would think you would stumble on some interesting things. Howard Stern is a great interviewer. He is. He does research. He really gets in there. He's really comfortable with him. To me, and who am I to break down Joe Rogan, who's making hundreds of millions? Like I am aghast and confused every time. I'm like, this is a great interviewer. He's just.
I can't get the image of Rogan out of my head of telling some woman that she's about to dive 20 feet into a barrel of squid oil on Fear Factor, right? Which inspired, of course, another one of my non-existent or non-acted upon projects, which would have been Degenerate Fear Factor, which I think would have been a big hit. Remember that? The Polyman, he went into a panic when I suggested that there was going to be a rider change at the gate from a Feet Pink Eye to Dodie Dies. You're like, whoa. If that doesn't immediately ignite panic, what will? Let me get to the winner. Hey, wait a minute. Cancel these, will you? But that was what Rogan was doing, right? He was having people like dive off a high diving board into a glass of water and stuff like that you would see in the circus.
Yes. And even today when I actually do, I have seen clips of his. I'm like, it's fine, but he's not. It's not like freaking Barbara Walters, or the guy Ray. What was his name? The one that would make everyone cry on.
Roy Firestone.
Roy Firestone.
Firestone was great like that. Man.
Joe Rogan, he's not doing anything. He just when you have someone in person for 2 fucking hours and they're smoking weed with you, you're bound to get some good shit. I hope.
Yeah, maybe, depending how you direct the conversation or if it goes anywhere at all. I guess it doesn't matter is what makes it great. But then, the other image you have of Rogan is those ridiculously over, reactions that he has to anything that happens in a UFC fight.
Yes, the UFC stuff.
Where a guy lands like a noogie after 5 minutes of total boredom, and Rogan's like, you're like, you just noogied the guy. What are you talking about, Joe? That wasn't all that phenomenal. It's kind of a Kevin Harlan syndrome to an exponent of 100, where the overreaction to anything that happens in an MMA event, right? And that's Rogan, right? Rogan, and then he would get in the ring, and he's built like our friend Andy, man, just built
like a UFC guy.
Yeah.
All that. Yep.
And he has that Jay Glazer kind of look, except without the gut, and he looks like he stayed in the gym instead of going to the fridge after. Anyway, and then he does the interviews, and I mean, they're typical in-ring interviews where you're just a little bit overzealous about everything that happened during the course of the match, and then the guy says nothing because he speaks like fluent Russian. And is already wearing one of those big fur hats as if he was about to go to Siberia if he lost. So it's hard to picture that guy being like, and Jesse said, "Hey, you ought to catch this Joe Rogan podcast. I really think it's great, because he would."
It's okay. It's not only the big name because Ken likes it too, and
Ken's an intellectual there, so that's good.
Ones are when he gets people you actually don't know because. He gets these people you've never heard of, and they're really honest and they're really interesting. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying, is it Joe Rogan or is it his access? As someone who does this, I'm always curious: is it the interviewer?
It's got to be a little bit of both, right? I mean, the reason we had access to Jim Larranaga is because, partially due to the fact that I guess he likes coming on our show. No.
Yes.
So, I mean, if he had come on a few times and they thought, wow, these guys are real losers, I'm sure he would have found a way to politely decline the interview this time now that he's in the spotlight with the Final Four. But he is not that type of guy, which is, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I almost take on a Segredo-esque approach when we talk about and think about Jim Larranaga, because it just seems like he is so genuine that he is exactly what you would want being an influence at 70. What would he be? 73 years old.
I think he's 73.
Being an influence on young men, so to speak. It's that old theory. Oh, we're going to turn these young men into real men. And how are you going to do that? Usually with some drill instructor.
He's not that guy.
But he's not that guy at all. No, he's right there with him, and they're in step with him. Those dancing scenes in the locker room are just absolutely inspiring, are they not?
From the beginning, he's very honest. He doesn't duck any questions, and he talks about the sport he's in like he's not. Like the way he's like, look at this Final Four. It's in Diego State. Da, 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 da. Look at this Final Four. Look at this sport. There's more parity than ever. Look at if an FDU can beat a Purdue. Like coaches in the game don't talk like that. Like he's good at meta analyzing the thing he's in, which most people, especially coaches, the term coach speak is there because it's a thing. Like coaches just regurgitate garbage. Like Larranaga never does that. Like Larranaga's always in the moment, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's the old thing. You used to ask a football coach, his reaction, to the game after a loss. He'd say, "Yeah, well, we have a good team, they have a good team, and when two good football teams get together, sometimes somebody's got to lose." Like, okay, that explains it. But he went right into it, Larranaga, and very illustrative of anything. What would be a great college basketball or a pro basketball analyst. If he was on the sidelines there, it'd be terrific. Hey, another thing, though. Will we live long enough? I know you will, Lubie, but I'm not sure. My number's blinking on the board. Okay. Will we live long enough to see the Aaron Rodgers deal consummated to the New York Jets? And is Bill Belichick really chasing Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with any of this stuff.
What could be holding this up? I mean, how delusional are the Green Bay Packers at this stage?
Like, what, are they?
They've already run this guy off. They've already pronounced him dead on arrival. They don't want to see this guy ever in Green Bay again.
Which is fine. They don't want him. He doesn't want to be there. Okay. Like, what are you doing then? Like, what the fuck?
And he's announced his stated desire to play next year for the New York Jets.
Repeatedly.
What leverage do the Packers have at this point? They can't afford to have him come back to the roster. Imagine this guy shows up at training camp with the funny haircut. Who is it that he looked like? Nick Cage in Con Air.
Con Air, that's what as Ken said, yeah.
Yeah, he did. He looked exactly like him. That was great. But I mean, how is this deal not consummated yet, Lubie?
I don't know. Every day, I'm like the Jets. I think the Jets should go for Lamar Jackson. Like at this point, they should just say fuck the Packers. It'll take a lot more, but the guy's younger, and they don't really have an offensive system. So they're the one team that could build a system around Lamar Jackson, and they have a bevy of weapons. Like they should tell the Packers to go screw themselves and go after Lamar Jackson. Like I'm like the fact that they came out yesterday and said, no, we're not changing our attention. We're totally focused on Rodgers. I was like, why? Like, they're going to cost you the same money.
Everybody is of the belief that when Rodgers goes to the Jets, they will win the AFC East next year.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
They will eclipse Buffalo, be a better team than Buffalo. The theory is, and you were actually on this one yesterday yourself, that look, if they had a quarterback that did anything last year, they managed to win 7 games somehow with a guy that was a complete stiff. And then when he wasn't playing, they had even bigger stiffs that they replaced him with.
Yeah.
Yeah, including, I guess, Mike White, what was the saving grace among Jet quarterbacks last year, who's now a Miami Dolphin.
Yes.
Joe Flacco, he can't hang. He's become the Udonis Haslam of the NFL. In his 60s, yeah. I mean, Blanda didn't play this long. So we all know, I mean, this has to happen, doesn't it? I mean, if it doesn't, Roger Goodell is going to step in. He's going to intercede, and, he's going to, stop this thing, this nonsense, and say, hey, listen, Rodgers, you're a Jet, man. Here you go. Here's your helmet. We can't afford to have you go back to Green Bay at this stage.
Honestly, I mean, that would be
television revenue. I mean, all these guys are about to re-up. We need New York. So why don't you just play for the Jets? Make sure they win 11 games and give rise to hope that they could win a Super Bowl, because they haven't done it since 1969. Unbelievable. We're not far behind in that category of futility, are we, as Miami Dolphin fans here in South Florida?
I mean, it's 3 years.
We're right there on top of it. That's for sure. But anyway, I hope that comes to fruition sometime before I die. The Aaron Rodgers, at least a resolution to the situation, not necessarily that he goes to the Jets, just something, huh?
Yes,
maybe he goes back with Danica Patrick. Who the hell knows? Just do something, Aaron. It's not his fault, though, at this point. It's Goodwill Hunting. It's not your fault. I just think whatever the expectation is of the Green Bay Packers, they have to be dreaming. No, they have a better chance of Bart Starr coming back to life than they do of getting a first round pick.
Well, the thing, because you're only going to get, it's only going to be 2 years. Like you're not, even Rodgers hasn't said it's going to be more than 2 years.
It might be one for all we know.
And that's the thing. So why would you give up more than what if you a second round's fine, but a first round pick for a guy that's 38, he did tail off last year. He is a head
that you need to be gone. I mean, they don't even want him in the state of Wisconsin at this point. Brett Tesler was on with us yesterday, was saying they take such a tremendous salary cap hit that they would have to disband the squad. They literally would be digging up Fuzzy Thurston and Ray Nitschke.
I think Bart Starr's alive.
Starr still around? Yeah.
I think he is. I want to pronounce him dead.
How many people have we killed off on this show that are very much alive and kicking?
A lot. Just this week, I think we did a lot.
All right. Well, we want to thank Coach Larranaga for joining us on the program.
He died. Bart Starr, we didn't pronounce him dead early. He died.
I thought he was dead, man. I was going to go.
I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
No, you have every right to question it because we've been wrong so many
in his 90s driving. So
is Kuzi still alive? I think Kuzi's still alive. No, Kuzi? Did he check out? Bob Kuzi.
Jerry Philman, Sherman.
Dead or alive? We really should do it. Dead or alive? I would imagine it would have a lot of confusing elements for many people, not just me.
Should add that to the trivia challenge instead of true or false.
Dead or alive? Yeah. There was a guy named Chuck Meyer. Was a great newscaster that I worked with very early on in my radio days here at WIOD. And Chuck Meyer used to have a Saturday magazine show for 4 hours, and it was great. He really did a great job with it. It was a lot of fun, and he always had me on because he thought I was some kind of comic presence there as a sports guy. And he would challenge me. He had Dead or Alive was one of his segments. And he would name off guys, and you were like, wow, I could swear I heard that so-and-so died. Dead or Alive. Unbelievable.
It's a great question.
We'll bring it up. Jim Sarney asks if Dusty Springfield is still alive. I'm going long gone on Springfield. Wishing and hoping and praying, right?
You're right. Long gone, 1999.
Yeah, long gone, Sarney. All right.
Jesus.
We owe Sarney a debt of gratitude. A debt of gratitude. A debt of gratitude.
Yeah, he's been pushing us toward the college basketball world, and we mocked him all year, and that's what we have right now because we don't have the Panthers, and who knows if we have the Heat.
Panthers, that would be a sad story, wouldn't it? I mean, not atypical of what's happened with this franchise since they've come here.
They had turned it around. They had gotten into the playoffs, and they looked like they were going to start pulling away. And now they've lost, 4? Is it 4 in a row? They lost 4 in a row?
They got clobbered, I think, the last couple of games. Goaltending, obviously, you're not exactly, at its stellar best.
And he played.
When you're giving up 5-6 goals a game. I think that happened in the last 2 games. They gave up 6 and then 5. I have to say, I mean, this is a team that has a very difficult time getting the attention of even the most live possibilities of fans, and I would be one of them, right? Not that I need them to win to be interested in the team, but if you're going to lose like this after giving rise to hope last year, and then I do believe that was one of the most lopsided trades in favor of a South Florida team ever made. Matt Tkachuk for Jonathan Huberdeau. I forget who the other guy was that they got. They got a legitimate player also, but not necessarily some guy that was going to turn your team around. And some draft picks, which are, I mean, is there anything more suspect than an NHL draft pick? You have no idea how that's going to go. With rare occasion, I mean, you'll have the number one guy turns out to be great. But other than that, I mean, if you look at the history of Panther drafts, there was a period there where I would imagine this was all on Dale Talon. That was as horrific as any drafting history that you would find with any team in any sport. The worst series of drafts you could ever have.
Yeah, and they were drafting high. It was like the Marlins. They would get in the top 10. And how do you waste a top 10 pick 5 years in a row?
Well, and nobody stuck that they drafted. Nobody was even in the league for more than a half a year, for years at a time. I mean, you could see where their demise, if they were even slightly inclined to say, hey, we got to get some youth. And built through the draft that they were doing anything but that. But to be in jeopardy of making the playoffs, and what do they have? 8 games left, I believe. I think it might be 8 after last night. And yes, it is 8. I think they played 74 games, and the Penguins have played 73. And they're 3 points behind the Penguins for the last spot in the playoffs, my friend. Or is there some cockamamie scheme with this new configuration where they somehow make it?
No. I still don't understand how it works, but there's only 8 teams. That I know.
All right, very good. All right, well, we have to get out of here. Thanks to Jim Larranaga for joining us on the program. That was great. Bonnie Bernstein was great. If you get a chance, if you hadn't seen that segment, I thought she was very inspiring there with her story. And, if somebody was trying to sell me on something that they had produced, she did a good job of making me think, hey, I might want to give this a listen. So that was great. It was nice having her on the show. And she is not the daughter of Val Bernstein. We learned that one more time, confirmed by. Did she get tired of that question?
Yes, because she was ready for it.
She said it first, like I didn't even get to it. That was great.
Like, I'm not. You're like the daughter of Val Bernstein.
Mike Mayo's lunchbox, 12 o'clock. What does Mike have on the agenda today? What do you think? Is it National Something Day? Do we know from Sarni? Is it? I mean, I've seen a few days that have passed that we could have, been on, but it was like National Pancake Day or Waffle Day last week.
Weed Day. I don't know if that's the weed that grows in your garden or the weed
that goes in virtually everybody's blood system. Yeah.
I don't know what weed.
Everybody, what's funny when you're at one of those dispensaries, the medical marijuana dispensaries, the people that come out of there. I mean, it's amazing, right?
Well, no, what's cool is it's not like the guys you would think. It's not like
no, it's like 80-year-old ladies are coming out of there, right? They jump into a Volkswagen Bug, and or van, and head right back to Woodstock. It's great. Nothing like being caught in a time warp.
Burger Beast will join us today, like you said yesterday. We both forgot.
Oh, good. Okay, that's
Burger
great. That guy's good, man. Yeah.
He's classic.
All right, so that'll be fun. We'll talk some burgers with Mike Mayo. 12 o'clock today, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and then we'll see you tomorrow. And Brian White, yes. AD at FAU. I guess, that's kind of an interesting perspective to get. Like, what has this meant? I mean, this is millions of dollars they can infuse into the basketball program for making it this far in the tournament.
Well, and I think it's interesting not only that he spotted Dusty May, but when Dusty May wanted to do a U-turn, he's the one that
Dusty May was literally ready to jump off the Dania Pier.
He was the one that was like, I'm telling you, it's worth it. And he's the one that got Dusty May to stay. And he's the one that probably was a partner in Dusty May getting to this place.
All right. So give us some insight into what's going on. And I'm sure he's very much attached to this run by the program. Plus, he also has to deal with, trying to get a football program to come back to the level that they had when Lane Kiffin was there very briefly, which was he not then responsible for that hire as well, Lane Kiffin?
I don't
know how long Brian White has been at FAU. Would have no idea. So
no, we have him on.
Anyway, we know nothing about the guy, but he's going to be on with us tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll know everything about him.
We'll brush up on our Brian White history. Although I definitely was responsible for the Dusty May deal, and then
he started in 2018.
Okay, same year then as Dusty May.
Yeah, I don't think Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, I think he's been at Ole Miss for a few years.
Yeah. Kiffin was probably gone by then. All right, we'll see you 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, South Florida Live. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to Jim Larranaga, Bonnie Bernstein, Mike Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, and we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.